What's going on, and welcome to the Stick Drift Podcast, a podcast for all things cars, racing games, motorsports, and more. What's going on, and welcome to the Stick Drift Podcast, a podcast for all things car culture, racing games, racing, motorsports, and whatnot. And today is the first ever bonus guest episode. Exactly. We get the main episode, which you boys would have seen on Sunday. And on Wednesday, today, not today for us, but we have the first ever guest episode on the Stick Drift podcast in the form of CraptasticJack.
I feel so special.
I know,
Thank
the
you.
first one. I've called you, I feel bad about it now because I clocked it a while ago. I've called you CraptasticJack a few times, and I only clocked a while into it that it was CraptasticJack.
I'll be completely honest. You are not the first, and you're not gonna be. You're not gonna be the last. Probably.
Yeah.
Unironically, you're probably not gonna be the last.
Yeah.
There was this guy a while back. I'm talking like 2015, 2016, who wanted to do a lot of like he wanted to collab with me, and he put me in his YouTube channel list, where you put friends and everything. But he put me as CraptasticJack.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're not the first. You're not going to be the last, probably.
Yeah.
And yeah.
But hey, tell me about you. Tell me about what you do.
So basically, I make racing game content. I've been doing it for literally 10 years at this point.
Wow. Congrats.
This year, yeah, 2012.
Yeah.
Yeah. Way earlier than I should have been, to be completely honest. And yeah, so basically I mainly do Need for Speed. Right now, obviously focusing on Need for Speed. It's always kind of been my bread and butter.
Yeah.
Not growing up, I guess you could say, but in the early days, I covered the Crew 1 a lot back in the day.
Yeah.
Me and a couple of my friends, we played the Crew 1 a ton. Absolutely love that game, despite that game being the roller coaster that it was. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah. That game had its ups and downs, just like the elevator industry. And then obviously covered the Crew 2 quite a bit.
Yeah.
I think I was pretty positive about the game.
I think you were known to
love
be
that game.
the most optimistic person in the Crew 2, actually.
Nah, absolutely. But yeah, unironically, my channel experienced the highest growth it ever has seen covering the Crew 2.
I mean, same, unfortunately. Unfortunately.
Yeah, we can kind of both agree on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I haven't covered the Crew 2 in a while. I mean, it's just one of those games I pop on. Oh, new update. Oh, I don't like it, and I close the game. That's basically it. But yeah, I did a lot of that, and honestly, right now, I'm mainly just focused a lot on streaming. And
I saw that you made its own channel as well.
Yeah, that's something I've been wanting to do for a while. I'm very ADHD.
Yeah.
So for the past, I want to say 3 years, it's been, I'm streaming on Twitch. And a few months later, I'm streaming on the main channel. I'm streaming here or there, And the problem with YouTube streaming is, at least if you're an older account, this is something I've noticed. My account's 10 years old.
Yeah.
Streaming, if you don't start off streaming on the main channel off the bat, streaming is going to basically fuck your channel. Anytime I would stream on the main channel, I would check the analytics and see 10 people on sub, 20 people, at the end of 1 month, I had minus 20 subscribers for that month.
Okay. That's very interesting, because I mean, I look at a lot of analytics and whatnot, so I mean, that's interesting to see, because I often see the opposite, where it's people who go on the, well, I mean, it's what I did as well. I did a different channel for streaming, and I did a little bit on Twitch, but then what I ended up doing was main channel streaming. I guess, how big was I when I guess, to be fair, I was only on 200, which could definitely be considered the start, and because it's the start, I get what you mean, though. Yeah. People watch for one thing, so when they get something else, you got to be getting both people at the start to get them all invested.
And you're extremely lucky with that, because you basically grew with streaming and YouTube and all that different types of forms of content on one channel.
Yeah.
So you kind of grew with that, and streaming on YouTube is probably one of the best ways to grow your platform and your brand.
It has been recently. Yeah.
It is. Yeah. But for old heads like me that have been on YouTube since 2012, it kills your channel more often than not. So kind of setting it and putting it on its own channel has done wonders. Like I've been seeing quite a bit of growth on there, a lot quicker than I thought I would. I'm already kind of getting the same amount of viewership that I typically would. And with Need for Speed Unbound, I'm hoping to bring a lot of, I guess you could say, new people over to the channel.
You and me both.
People who just
sit
there and watch like streams and stuff, you know?
Yeah.
But it's a grind. It's a constant grind, you know?
I mean, diversifying has been the biggest issue for me. It's been a rough one, really.
Yeah.
I've been hacking away at it. To be fair, it's not the worst thing in the world at the moment. Like, a bad crew video will do the same views as like an average, or even less than an average Forza video. For some reason, people did not want to watch Need for Speed Unbound news. They watched me play Heat. But it's a weird balance. And I mean, YouTube is definitely one of the hubs for combining different types of content, especially now that they're splitting up the pages as well for live videos, notifications. I mean, I think for your whole thing, I thought about this a while ago, but I guess it would overall maybe have a negative effect, but maybe letting people choose what type of videos they get notifications for. Because I mean that may have helped with the losing subs when going live, etc. But I suppose that's also with the thing of you've had this subscriber base for so long, a live stream would wake them up and be like, oh well, I'm watching for the other content, etc.
Yeah. Yeah. And like we would get like a good amount of views. I would get like maybe 30, 40 people in my streams, which for me is a lot.
Yeah,
when I would stream on the main channel. But there would be too many negative side effects after I would do that. So it just kind of like it's that weird kind of balancing act. And if I can grow a channel that's naturally just from like streaming, then that's overall, it's gonna be long term a better thing for me. And also my situation's changed. I'm working nearly full time now, so I don't have I don't have as much time as I wish I did to produce actually proper videos most of the time. So streaming's kind of been my outlet to kind of get creative, because all I've really had time to do video-wise is just kind of like give my opinion on stuff, not really try to be funny, creative, that type of thing. And streaming's kind of that outlet where I can do that more often.
I mean, I took the opportunity recently. What I did was because I was bad with uploading for a while. What I used to do was I used to use streaming as a crutch. It was like, oh, well, I'm streaming today, so I'll upload next week. And especially with the crew, right? It was like, oh, well, it's not like there's a new car. I'll upload when there is one. And I started using streaming as a crutch. And then eventually, a couple months ago, I sort of... What I started doing was... one of the biggest lifesavers of the channel was recording on stream. Like whenever, it's so good.
On God.
Yeah, like I'll be live with Streamlabs open, and then I'll hit record. Every chat blows up for a hot minute because they'll all go hi YouTube. Interactions are up. Video watchers see that I'm live. It's a whole feedback loop, and I get, because I stream, well, not daily, not anymore, like 5 days a week. That's 3 extra hours on every single one of those days that I get to film. And I get to use those titles in the stream titles as well.
Streaming 5 days a week for like what? Mainly the crew 2, I'm guessing. Like,
yep, yeah.
You'd have to throw me in prison to make me do that.
I mean, it's not just that, right? It's not just that. Wait, I'll whack this up, right? What else it is if I go to the channel, right? It's daily uploads. Again, these are all mostly the crew. These will all be mostly the crew. It's daily uploads, 5 days a week streaming, shorts every now and then I have the second channel where I just do wheel gameplay of more crew. I'm definitely maxing out the market, but it's what market it is.
That's cornering the crew 2 market. I will say the crew 2, it's a very, I guess you could say from my experience, when I'm like sitting down and titling videos and getting that keyword search optimization, it's a very easy, because it's very niche. It's not like Forza where you have every Tom, Dick, and Harry making videos about it. it's a lot more of a niche game, and just the game itself has kind of, you know, a lot of the typical people, I guess you could say the old guard of like a lot of racing game content creators that typically would have like made content for it, didn't like the game. The game kind of, you know,
people got off it very quick.
Yeah. So you basically, what you see is you have this new community, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Coming in, a lot more niche of a community coming in and making content for the game. Out of, I'd say, a lot of the racing games out nowadays is the most niche, but that's allowed a lot of people like you to grow exponentially.
The game's had a lot of post-launch growth as well. For at least the first 3 years, I know it had double year-on-year growth, and then I know currently it's even though it'll definitely be on a decline at the end of like a good season or whenever the usual declines are. There's a lot of new players to the game a lot of the time. It's not got a lot of it struggles to keep the core audience, but I guess it's beneficial for me. But it caters a lot to a new audience a lot of the time.
Yeah, I definitely see it going more towards like the Fortnite crowd.
Yeah, that's
yeah. Like, and for a lot of people like me who were in the Crew 1 beta back in 2014, who played through that game for over 1,000+ hours, seeing how the game's kind of turned, it's alienated a lot of people. So, but on the other hand, I guess good for Ubisoft is they've gotten like a new, I guess you could say, player base.
Yeah,
I'd argue for the game, and it's a player base that is kind of separate from other racing games. So going back to what you were talking about, making content on other games, it's a lot harder to like there's a lot less of a crossover as say from Need for Speed to Forza or like Forza like to other racing games, and that's probably because of just how the Crew 2 has kind of developed itself over the past couple of years.
I mean, the way I often, it's very reductive, but the way I often see it is Need for Speed is very racing. Forza, I would say, is the car guy's game. If you're like part-time working at a mechanic, like that kind of guy. I picture the old British dad with a Fiesta in the old driveway. It's like the car guy kind of game. The Crew has and always is gameplay, where it's like play X amount of hours, grind a motor pass, grind a like
basically another job.
Yeah, it's very, it's like it's the car guy's game, the racing game, and then the more gameplay focused game, which I would say they're definitely in their own things, but the racing game audience in general loves to do the old, well, I play this game and the other ones are bad, and I play this game and the other ones are bad.
I remember the days of 2014. I was like a freshman in high school. You had the Crew 1, Forza Horizon 2, and Drive Club. And every Tom, Dick, and Harry was making videos comparing the two, which one was better, which one was worse. Yeah. And they're all completely different games. Like, it's bad enough that people do it today in 2022, but people were doing that shit back in 2014. Yeah, and it was just equally as annoying. Yeah, because they're all three of those games were different games for different types of people. But I just find that really funny. Even back then, people were doing.
I mean, this is the one that I'm most into now, so that's the one I've picked up, and it's you notice it a lot. But you know what I'm curious about? What racing games, now this may carbon date you as well, but what racing games did you grow up with?
This probably will carbon date me a bit. I remember when I was like, I started early. I was a gamer early. Yeah. So like when I was like 3 or 4, on my computer at home, my dad had Need for Speed 2, like Need for Speed 2 SE. Yeah. So that's the first video game I ever played. It was that and SpongeBob. I think it was SpongeBob Employee of the Month on PC. And then I remember it was like, I believe when I was like 5, for Christmas, I got this, it was like a Need for Speed bundle. It came with Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2, Need for Speed Underground 1, Porsche Unleashed in High Stakes. So I played a lot of that. Yeah. But honestly, my go-to like video game when I was growing up was honestly Midtown Madness 2. That was probably the game I played the most. And I remember this is a very like I don't remember a whole lot from when I was like 5, 6 years old, but I remember coming home from like kindergarten one day, loading up Midtown Madness 2 and seeing that my dad had modded in a ton of like cars for Midtown Madness 2. So there was like a monster truck, there was like motorcycles, like there's like a taxi cab, like that shit was like so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that out of all the games I played, like racing games a lot that I played as a kid, it was probably Midtown Madness 2 that I played the most.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I've to be fair, I'm not even familiar with a lot of the selection there. Mine was sort of, it was, I mean, I think I had Forza, the one with the R8 as the picture. Don't remember which motorsport that was, but the real ones I played were Hot Pursuit, that one, the one that was Hot Pursuit, the remastered one. Driver San Francisco was one I loved.
That's a fantastic game.
Such a good game. It's
good.
A shame that game is lost to time and to never really exist. And it's a Ubisoft game. So
if you buy a Subway gift card, you can buy it.
You can get it with a Subway gift card. I've still got my 360 and I've got the original disc, and it goes into the 1S. So I play that every now and then.
I was very lucky to buy that on Steam when I was able to. So I have that on Steam, thankfully.
When would that have been? When did the game get discontinued then, I guess?
I want to say sometime in between 2018 and 2020. That's what I want to say.
Yeah, that's a lot more recent than I would have thought it would have been. I mean, I've had Ubisoft issues. Another game I grew up with, I love, is Splinter Cell Blacklist. They don't care about that game either. It's unfortunate when I'm like the guy doing Crew 2 videos, a Ubisoft game, and then the like one of the main other two Ubisoft games that I really like are just the ones that have been shoved down every shitter imaginable. It's just
Rest in peace.
Yeah.
Well, Driver became Watch Dogs, and then Watch Dogs 1 and 2 were really good, and then Watch Dogs Legion just sucked. Like, so I don't think maybe the pendulum will switch the other way. Maybe they'll go back to making a Driver game.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, that'll be the cope. They'll flip Watch Dogs back into Driver. I mean, wasn't it? Well, there's so many things that I've heard that apparently that it was supposed to be a Driver, but then they made it Watch Dogs, and I heard that there was gonna be a mobile boat driver game.
There was.
There?
That was a thing.
Did it exist?
What the fuck was it called?
I was gonna say,
I'm just looking up Driver boat game.
Yeah.
It was called Driver Speedboat Paradise. And it came out in 2015. So
2015. Okay.
Yeah, 2015. Apparently,
it's if they've made the cover. I was gonna say cover car. The cover boat is
literally the fucking Charger.
It's the Charger, but as a boat. That is so goofy. But what I heard was that apparently the devs actually ended up that they were the ones who decided to cancel the game because they put a lot of work into it and it only came out to be average sales rather than above average sales, which is what they were going for. Which is really unfortunate.
It is unfortunate. I mean, because Driver San Francisco is like S tier in terms of like racing games.
Yeah.
It's just such a fantastic game, and I feel like it's one of those racing games that even people who aren't necessarily racing game like fans can really enjoy.
It's like one thing I never understand. I tweeted this as well. I don't understand how Driver nailed, or at least got as the most perfect I have ever seen, wheel animations. And every game since then bottles them. The three mainline ones, the Crew, Forza, and Need for Speed, all bottle them. Need for Speed doesn't even have any.
They don't even try. Need for Speed doesn't even try.
Exactly. And Driver's Ubisoft. They would have to copy files to put it in the Crew 2. Like, it's insane how that game nailed wheel motion and even my Google screensaver is a driver homage in the Crew 2.
Yeah.
But it's insane that they nailed the wheel mechanics so long ago, yet bottle them.
Yeah, they just don't care anymore. Yeah.
I mean, racing games in general. Forza, I talked about this in my... Well, I mean, actually, you know what? I'll go into this, and then I can segment back to the topic I was about to go into. The first time we interacted, I believe I watched your videos back, I think... I may have watched a few before, but it was when the Motor Pass came around. The Motor Pass came around, and you did that one video with, I remember the thumbnail because it was Trump holding up the Motor Pass. God. And I remember that one did well. That one did very well.
Very well. Probably because of that reason.
Yeah. And I mean, it's a memorable thumbnail, but I remember watching that because I think that was like, I remember that time because my channel really started at The Chase. It's so unfortunate that like,
that late. Wow.
Yeah. I played the Crew 2 closed alpha, and I played the Crew 1 in the last, like, couple of months of its life cycle. But, like, my channel only really got started. The Chase was when it properly got started. And I remember that it was like a rumor that the Crew was adding a battle pass at the time. And I remember talking to my mate about it. I was like, surely they're not actually going to add a battle pass. And the first trailer comes out, and it's like, okay, well, they're not actual police, but it's like... It's not a battle pass. And then the Motor Pass trailer dropped. And then I think, did you make a video on the trailer? Or was it just on when the update actually came out?
It was definitely probably the trailer because they added in like cops. Like that's like one of the things I was always asking for.
And it was interception units.
Yeah, interception units because I don't know what fucking license they have in the Crew 2 that like maybe Ivory Tower just hates cops. Maybe they're just fucking they're like fuck 12. I'm home to take 12. Like they're like
one officer did Ivory Tower really dirty, and they're not going back.
Like, so it's insane how like they're tiptoeing around it, but I definitely made a video like on the Chase.
Yeah.
And it ended up being shit, so I mean like whatever.
Because I know you did the Trump video because I watched the Trump video. I know you did that video with Trump. But then I know you did one with gameplay because that's where I got like the smallest segment of you just saying Motor Pass for a segment where I had a bunch of YouTubers saying the word Motor Pass. Which, that was in the video I did, which was a Motor Pass documentary. It was just, like, to be fair, it went into a lot more than just the Motor Pass beforehand. It went into the Crew 1, the transfer from the Crew 1 to the Crew 2, and police being lost in that time. And at that point, I used your video, which was your video complaining about he said... I don't even know if it was confirmed at that point. I think they said they ruled out police. And you talked about them removing the feature.
Yeah. There's probably maybe like 10 plus videos of me talking about that. Not gonna lie. I remember it got to the point where I got banned from the Crew 2 Discord.
Yeah.
Don't know why. Probably because of my videos, you know?
I mean, I've been there, done that, like twice. Yeah. So
I've actually, I used to be a mod. I used to be a Reddit mod.
Oh, get a load of this guy.
Where's my fedora? No, I used to be a Reddit mod for the Crew Discord.
I'm sure you racked up plenty of karma.
Yeah, exactly. But I got removed because my videos, the head moderator didn't like my videos talking about the game, so he's like, "Hey, get the fuck out." You know. And one really interesting tidbit. And this is a while ago. So I, for whatever reason, got early access to some of the Crew 2 updates.
Yeah.
I don't know what they were thinking when they gave me access, because I feel like they knew what I was going to say beforehand, unless they just weren't watching my videos.
I mean, this is when it was like more specific early access. The system now, without going into too much of it, because I'm obviously on it, but the system now is much more streamlined. It gets to more people. It's more of a specific system. This is before, as far as I'm aware, where it was like properly on it. It was like reach out to you and then give you code and you make video.
Yeah. Yeah, it was more so, I guess you could say, for press.
Yeah.
And this was back before the Motor Pass, when they had like specific updates. I believe Inner Drive was the first one I was invited to. And there was another one I completely forgot the name of.
Kings of Mayhem, Gator Rush.
Yeah. But I remember, I think it was the second time around, because when I did the one that added in the Summit, I actually like praised that update because it added the Summit back.
Yeah.
I should have to praise them for adding something that they removed, but like, still, I said out of all the updates, this is a good one, and I guess they liked that, so they sent me another early access code, but this time the lady's like, "Hey, before I give you this code, you have to promise not to be toxic." That's not specifically what she said, but like I'm paraphrasing what they said, and it's because people in the crew forums said I was being toxic to them when I rarely went into crew forums, and when I was in there, I was never toxic because that's just how you get banned, you know. Like, so you have these people like spreading lies about me, you know, trying to like get me. You know, it felt very cult like. I felt like I'm infiltrating like a cult. Like, I'm not supposed to be here. Like, you know, like that's what it felt like, and it was really strange. And then for that, I guess you could say early access, I guess they didn't like what I said because I said the update like sucked or was lackluster. And then I just never got invited again. So it's whatever. But that interaction really stuck out to me. It's like, these people are like spreading lies about me, like to try and like ruin my credibility. That's because of me, because of supposedly mean things I say about their favorite game. Like, that's, I mean, it's the internet, but like,
always thought that was very odd. I mean, again, I can say it's the racing game audience, but a lot of audiences do that, where it's I'm in the crew server and I'm in good standing with it, but it's like it's odd when it's like can't criticize the game kind of thing.
I remember specifically this one time, and this is fucking funny as hell. I screen grabbed it. I don't know where I put it though, but someone had said that they hoped I got epilepsy because I fucking like, because I wanted like cops in the game, and they're like, he should get epilepsy.
What a specific thing to wish on someone. It's not
specific.
Like,
why? What?
Like, you'd hear like the real bad ones will say die. You'd get like get ill. Slip in the bath is one I hear sometimes. But like, get epilepsy is just so oddly specific.
But
but I mean, the thing is we got interceptors in the game. One thing I just noticed with the crew is they'll do a good thing badly. It's like it can never be executed well, and I hate that, because it's like the chase could have been a good update. Everything to the contractor, which I don't even know if you'd know what that is. It's one of the more recent updates.
Is that the taxi?
That was the taxi one.
Like that one I actually found a little bit fun. I like driving around doing taxi missions, and then when you're in your own car doing private contractor missions, that's cool. That's tight. But if it was
fleshed out more, it would have been a lot nicer. Carry on.
You know who did it better? The crew one with the crates. Just add these Volt interceptors coming after you.
I had to do that. I did a Cops and Robbers where I had to do that myself. I'd pick up a package and then be like, okay, you take me out while I'm delivering the package. It's like, why do I have to set that up myself? I don't know if you saw it, but I went back on the crew like 2 weeks ago. I know you do this one a lot, where it's like X game in current year, and I know the crew does well for that. I did that 2 weeks ago. It did well as well. Like, playing the crates, being able to jump into, just like live being able to jump into chase someone, and the PvP is just so much better. It's insane how terribly it's executed in the crew 2. Like, it's where does the execution just lack so much?
For the longest time, I played the Crew 1 PvP more over the Crew 2 PvP.
Wouldn't blame you.
Unfortunately, nowadays you can't really do that. You can't find like lobbies anymore. But also, one thing I remember from the Crew 1 PvP is private lobbies. You could have up to 8 people in a private lobby. and do private PvP.
Voice chat, the party game modes. It's just like just those specifically, the tag or the capture the flag, the zone wars one, elimination. It's just
me and my friends made so many videos doing the what was it? It was like the tag one or like crown mode.
Yep, it was like crown game or something.
I love
like
the one where you all had to like post up in like a specific spot and you had to like ram everybody else.
Yeah,
out
you
of
had to get to it and you'd get points for getting to it, and then you had to ram everyone out of it.
Like that shit was fun. Like that, like I guess it was like thought out of. It was fun. Like it kept the game fun.
Racing, but with eliminations, like 3 lives. Last person gets tagged every time interval. It's like just there's so many things with more thought. I often maybe it's just me coping, but like I often have to outsource the blame, and I'll be like, maybe it's a budget issue. Maybe it's a Ubisoft thing. Maybe it's a scheduling, a timing. A Ubisoft is the one I often go to where like, maybe it was goddamn Ubisoft again, making crew make update bad.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't even know what it is at this point. Then again, I've not been following the game. I don't know what they're up to right now. I've got better things on my mind. You know?
I can imagine with Unbound.
Yeah, especially. But like with the Crew 2, it always seemed like there was a lack of them understanding what people wanted.
Yeah.
Like, or if they tried to do something that they thought people wanted, they always fucked something up that like ruined it.
Like there's still praise for the game. For gameplay, good, but it's just like they could do a lot better. It's cool that they've been adding cars for this long and adding updates to any scale for this long, but like the execution is just unfortunate. I hope it's for the Crew 3, but like I remember I mentioned the Crew 3 in a tweet once, and you replied to me with like the Crew 3 Omega lol, which I thought was pretty funny.
I thought they were gonna announce the Crew 3 in like 2019 or not 2019, but like 2020.
Yeah.
But I can't believe we're still here in 2022. maybe COVID had something to do with it, but I mean like
it's just fumes. It's like maybe it's an island, maybe it's this year, but maybe
I don't know. And who even knows if it'll be good, because Ubisoft just seems to be an L factory at this point. Everything they've been putting out recently has just been garbage. So who knows if it will even be good.
I mean, the current rumor is that like it was an expansion that they're now making its own game.
Yeah.
Which sounds like, oh, you're working on expansion? No, we need a new game for you in the next few years. Make this a game now.
And that's probably what happened with the Crew 2, because when the Crew 2 came out, there was no PvP, no cops, no summit. Like, it was a bare bones ass game. So I'm willing to bet that Ubisoft's the reason why the Crew 2 came out like dog shit, and it's probably gonna be the same thing for the Crew 3.
I hope
especially
because if anything, it feels like the state of gaming nowadays. You know, like you used to like come home, boot up the PS2, and there's not even a download. You chuck in the disc, and the game runs.
Yeah, you just go right in.
Yeah. Now, on launch, you'll get the beta version. You'll get an alpha version. And then, when it's launch day, you'll get 60% of the game. And because it's a live service, it's a live service game, they can just update it afterwards. They can just add, like, the last 40% afterwards. Or if they're Need for Speed, they can ditch the game in 2 months.
Bro, I swear to God, if they do that again, I'm gonna be so fucking pissed.
I'm like, fingers crossed they make some promises so they can at least maybe stick to them.
Yeah.
Because weekly content, weekly content is what I'm hoping, because that's what'll keep it running, right? Like, even on this podcast, in the gaming segment of the main show, the only reason we're able to bring up games is because it's current summit in the Crew is this, current seasonal in Forza is this, GT7 is getting this right now. I'm hoping that it's a good car list, but the kind of small car list means that they'll be adding cars as the game goes on. They'll be adding updates as the game goes on, and not just ditching it and leaving it to Unite to do anything to the game.
I mean, it's looking at the car list, there's some great like additions like the Mitsubishi Eclipse.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I really think what they need to do now that the game's in Criterion's hands, they really seem to be going in on this car scene like aesthetic for the game, car culture wise. So I'm really kind of like on my knees praying that they add in cars that are popular with pop culture and not pop culture, but like car culture.
Well,
like
I mean,
the DC2 Integra, like
they've got the like please add this car, please, video game, please add like the Urus, the G-Wagon, the don't have the Supra, but they've got the Urus and the G-Wagon, etc., which are cars that I see suggested a lot, which is like a good thing. And the customization is like, I don't know which representatives they drugged to get them to okay some of that car customization. It is outrageous. The crew has to have interception units, and then Need for Speed gets that customization. Outrageous.
With cops.
With cops. It's nuts.
Yeah. I don't know what they did to get a lot of that shit. All I know is I'm not gonna be putting half of that shit on my cars. As much as I love Need for Speed and like the concept of illegal street racing, I'm very mild when it comes to my car customization. I like keeping my stuff stock a lot of the time. There's very few aftermarket stuff I'll put on my car. And this is I remember like looking at some of my cars from the Crew 1, like when I first played that game, or like from Need for Speed 2015 on my old Xbox save. I vomit every time I look. Like I remember, at least on the Crew 1, I had it was a Dodge, I want to say it was a Dodge Durango SRT. Puke green with carbon fiber hoods and black steel rims.
Yeah.
And these like weird like vinyls, and I'm looking at this and like this is something I would never make in 2020
because I played for so long. I do that in real time. I'll be on stream and discover a car I made maybe a couple months ago and just be like, what was I thinking? And then just instantly redo it right there. It's a pendulum swinging thing, but it's nice that the option is there. They've got very Crew 2 with the I keep calling them vanities. They're like tags or something, but the cartoon. Obviously, I don't mind the characters being cartoon or even some of the effects, but it's very Crew 2 vanities with the smokes and the wings and whatnot.
Yeah, it's Crew 2 vanity, but it looks good.
Yeah,
unlike the Crew 2.
It's a very interesting style. Oh god, it came to me when you said that. The graphics compared to the Crew 1 to the Crew 2, the car models are so much higher resolution. If the Crew 1 just had the tinge removed from it. I said the same thing about Heat, and then there was the mod that does that and removes the like tinge from Heat, and it looks so good. If you remove the tinge from the Crew 1, it's a good looking game in there. It's just an old game, so it had the whole grey all over it. But
yeah, it's really funny. The tinge was not there prior to Wild Run. The tinge got added after Wild Run.
Okay, I didn't play before Wild Run, so I didn't know that.
Yeah, no.
It's weird that they went more tinge and then went so flat for the Crew 1, for the Crew 2, where it's just like the Crew 2 is really, it tries to be so accessible. It's just like, look, cars, that's all it is. Just go play with them, please.
And boats and planes.
And boats and planes. We got boats and planes, please. But I'm gonna try and enjoy Unbound. I want to do videos on it, but I just don't know if people will watch it. That's what I'm hoping. But I'm sure you'll be on Unbound when it comes out.
Yeah, I mean, again with Need for Speed, it's one of the few gaming franchises where I get like a little kid, like excited like a little kid for Need for Speed. It's one of the very, very few. I think the only other one would be Grand Theft Auto.
So you've been doing absolutely fine recently, then, I can imagine.
Yeah. But I mean, like with Need for Speed Unbound, it's just I'm excited. Obviously, finally getting Need for Speed after 3 years of not getting content. Yeah. So I'm mad excited for it, and hopefully I could really grow with it. And the thing with that is, especially having been from a place where I'm trying to like change my content, switch it up.
Yeah.
Especially like, because it is really demotivating, because I had gotten into a rut with the Crew 2 content, because for me it was kind of like crack, like crack cocaine.
Yeah.
Like I feel like shit after I make a Crew 2 video.
Yeah.
Because I felt like I could use my time more productively. But at the same time, I'm getting tons of views. Oh, this is video number 1 out of 10. I'm making
1 out of 10
money.
is nice. Yeah.
I'm basically making money from shitting on a game for the 10th billionth time.
Yeah.
But it was really hard, and my channel kind of saw this dip where like I was used to getting like 1,000+ views of video.
Yeah.
Sometimes tens of thousands of views for a Crew 2 video, but like I wasn't enjoying it.
Yeah.
And thankfully I was able to really kind of just put it away and get sober, get clean.
Yeah. You went to rehab.
I basically went to rehab, and then kind of after a while you build, like, obviously you're gonna lose people. Like I had a ton of people that would come to my channel just to join on the hate wagon for the game. But over time you grow and you kind of build back up what you had lost, and you replace the people that you lose with people who are more there for you, more there for your style, more there for
the goal.
Your personality. Yeah, exactly. So while it may suck at the beginning, like after a while, like people weren't coming to my channel for me. They were coming because I shit on the Crew 2.
Yeah.
And realizing that and kind of switching off, I've definitely made a much better choice.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've escaped the Crew. I've
escaped.
You've escaped the Crew. I mean, I still like the game, and it'll probably still stay my main thing. But to be fair, I don't even play much of the Crew anymore. It'll just be like reacting to something to do with the game, or I unboxed the number plate edition or whatever. But one of the things I was gonna go into, God, this was like 7 segues ago now that I think about it. But like sort of one of the things that I mentioned back in that documentary, and this kind of it's insane that Need for Speed is doing what Unbound is doing, what it's doing now. Where I mentioned that Forza was a big player in the change from the Need for Speed racing game to the happy-go-lucky, we don't need police anymore, we can just race, and we get to race, and it's all a festival, and it's all happy, and it's all racing. Which, what's your take on that from the change of racing games from there to here?
I think
especially with the live service thing as well. Yeah.
I think what it is racing games just kind of copy what's popular. I mean, look back at like the early 2000s. What was popular? Fast and Furious, Need for Speed Underground, Need for Speed Most Wanted. Those like games sold tens of millions of copies. So obviously you have games like Street Racing Syndicate. You have like all these other racing games kind of going for that illegal street racing vibe. But over time, as Forza Horizon is kind of overtaking Need for Speed, in terms of not necessarily popularity, because both franchises sell very close to each other. But Forza Horizon more often than not has the higher quality product. And is the one getting the better
Microsoft
reviews.
Money.
Exactly. And I think this was really seen with Need for Speed Payback, where half the game was off-roading. You had a huge-ass open map. They were really... and you had to, like... There was, like, barn finds. They were basically copying Forza at the time. So, really, what I think it is, and especially with the Crew... I mean, the Crew Summit, that's obviously a copy of the Horizon Festival. They made it into its own thing, which is really cool. But like still, they wanted to go after Horizon.
Well, the rumor is we're getting a Motorfest soon for this island for the Crew 3. Is Motorfest being a? I'll give you 50 guesses on what it is, but yeah.
I can only wonder.
But yeah, the whole festival aesthetic.
Yeah, but I mean, really, with that whole festival theme, the only reason all these other games are copying it is because it's popular and Forza is doing it successfully. If Need for Speed 2015 sold near like as much as Forza Horizon 5 or like the Forza Horizon game at the time and sold really well and was like lauded as like a 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10, and that's what like people were like mainly playing. If I want to say street racing culture was as big back then as it is today in 2022, you would see games like The Crew probably stick more to illegal street racing. You'd see more games about that as opposed to participating in a festival. That's kind of my idea of why games are going toward that. And also it's probably easier for not necessarily marketing, but age rating, especially if you're trying to target all the different audiences, which kind of is weird for The Crew 2 considering it's a rated T game.
Yeah. With I believe sex and bad language is what it says on the case. Yeah. But I mean, also licenses, I assume, would play into that as well. I mean,
exactly.
It's like I mean, Fast and Furious was mentioned not but a minute ago, but it's like the whole how The Rock has in his contract that he can only give as much pain as he gets, and Jason Statham has that he can't get hit, and Vin Diesel has that he can get hit but only a bit. I can imagine car companies ran by some older folks can't be the happiest now that everything's coming back into the... Well, like, gaming isn't the smaller thing, it's the mainstream thing. I can't imagine, especially with Forza, with being an Xbox, Microsoft thing, that the executives are too happy with the whole police and that kind of thing.
Exactly. I don't think it's more so the illegal street racing thing they're upset about, because Forza Horizon 5 technically is illegal street racing.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's basically just racing with traffic. With Need for Speed, I feel like the only reason they can really get away with it is because of how big of a franchise Need for Speed is.
Yeah.
When you're creating a startup, like, racing game, even as, like, a company like Ubisoft or, like, Microsoft even, you might have a harder time securing licenses for a project that involves running from the cops, committing crimes, you know? That's why games like GTA don't have licensed cars.
It baffles me that they've gone so far with that. Like some of them will be so close to the actual car.
Yeah,
and it's like
wild.
What baffles me more is CarX. Like CarX is the car model, and it's just a different name.
Just car model.
If like the way I see it is like if they weren't a Russian company, they would have been sued into the ground surely. That's just the car model. Yeah.
And I know upcoming, what's it called? I forgot what it's called.
There's CarX Street.
No, it's a street racing game.
Yeah.
I made a video on it a while back, but it's this indie street racing game set on the Tokyo expressways.
Yeah.
And it's about like Japanese street racing, and all the car models are Night Runners. That's what it's called.
Yeah.
And it features extensive car customization, but all the car models are basically just the car, but with the badge.
The Pfister Jester or whatever. Like it baffles me that they get so far with it. And I mean, GTA is pretty ingrained into I'd say it's like it's kind of attached to the old racing game kind of thing. There's people who definitely, especially with the tuners update, but even before that, there's people who treat it like a racing game with that whole thing. It'll be one of the things people play as racing games and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, like back in the day, Grand Theft Auto Online 2013, 2014, all I ever did was racing. So
yeah. But it's a very easy way to duck the licensing issue and be able to have the absolute monstrosity that is GTA 5 with the controversy and whatnot. To have stuff like that with cars still in the game. And I've lost my train of thought here. I've dug myself into that one. I've absolutely fumbled it.
But
I don't even remember what we were talking about. The licenses and getting them and police and etc.
I do gotta give it like credit where credit is due with Need for Speed. Obviously it's easy for me to give credit because I'm a Need for Speed fanboy, but I mean, but like with Need for Speed, I'm really, especially with how corporate Electronic Arts is, I'm very happy that they kind of stuck to their guns, while
Yeah.
every other racing game is like shying away from illegal street racing and kind of becoming samey. Need for Speed stands out on its own right off the bat by focusing, and even with Unbound doubling down on like
Yeah.
illegal street racing car culture, arguably more than Need for Speed Heat, which
Mm.
already like doubled down on illegal street
Yeah.
racing. So it's really interesting, and I hope the game sells well, like just based on that, because we want like illegal street racing games are like some of my favorite like racing games.
Yeah.
That whole vibe, like, is really like, I love like the underground street scene culture. Like, not even as like someone who street races, because I don't.
For the record.
Like, well, outside of like drag racing people
Yeah.
after school,
within
like,
the speed limit. Yeah.
allegedly.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
like, I don't like
Statute
like,
of limitations.
Like, I don't go and like I don't go and organize street races. I don't do any of that. But like, the culture is really cool.
Yeah.
And having been to like not necessarily underground, but having been to like street meets.
Yeah, I've been to like proper unofficial meets. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember. I don't know how many of you who are listening know Niner Racing Division, but basically myself, straight up Hippo, we both flew out to California where he lives, and he has a lot of car friends, and we were able to just kind of like see like the scene in like the Bay Area and just kind of like experience that, and that was a really cool experience. And that's like the type of vibe that I like out of racing games, and that's the type of vibe that Need for Speed emulates.
Yeah.
And with Need for Speed Unbound, that like vibe alone is like a big reason why I'm gonna be probably playing this game, putting thousands of hours into it. And I feel like that vibe and like illegal street racing culture is coming back. I know for better or for worse, but like
I hope for better.
Yeah. But I mean, like, we see street takeovers and everything, and that's a whole kettle of fish. That's dangerous. But like, watching video, even still, it's a guilty pleasure watching videos of people like no hezzying on the freeways around New York City. You know, that type of thing. Like, and with the internet and TikTok becoming like really being a thing, street racing, I'd say, and I've been talking to my friends about this, everyone talks about the early 2000s street racing culture and how that was like the peak of like street racing culture, but I feel like we're seeing a renaissance, I guess you could say, of like street racing and like racing culture, underground culture, street culture. I feel like we're seeing a renaissance of that, as nerdy as that sounds.
I mean, I know what you mean. Yeah, it's I've got someone on Snapchat who I see every now and then. There'll be meets going on, and I'll go to one every now and then. Yeah. There's a lot of car culture.
Exactly, and street racing is being vilified by the media again. I guess you could say mainly by street takeovers. I mean, my one buddy, he goes to college in Philadelphia, and right outside his window on Broad Street, there's like a group of guys doing just like a street takeover, and down near City Hall, literally in front of City Hall, doing a street takeover right there. Like, it's definitely coming back, and I really kind of hope that more racing games capitalize on that. You know, and also it's the safer alternative.
I mean, the Need for Speed Unbound, it obviously now it's my job, right? Like, I'm on a schedule. I barely get any free time for gaming, let alone I'll just like watch a TV show every now and then. But like, at the moment, it is my job. But like, Unbound, if it was like flashing back to like 2 years ago or 3 years ago or even more than, Unbound genuinely feels like a game I could sit down and enjoy. It genuinely feels like the kind of game where, especially if it was like a while ago and I'd picked it up, it feels like a game I would sink hours into. It's a controversial thing, definitely, the cartoon aesthetic.
Yeah.
But I like it. I like the mix of it. It stops them from having to go with, I guess maybe it's kind of worn out, but maybe I'm only saying it's worn out because this is happening. I don't know, it's a bit of a confirmation bias kind of thing, but the worn out thing of just the like hyper realistic but not really realistic looking character models, all doing the same serious story, doing the same old basic looking Need for Speed. This one makes it unique, which I do hope it's really good, because I feel like they're definitely playing the same risk that Need for Speed 2015 played, where if it's bad, it'll be like, if Need for Speed 2015 was like the greatest game ever made, it'll be that Need for Speed, but it's the Need for Speed with live action cutscenes. And if this one kind of flops, it'll be the Need for Speed with anime.
Exactly. That's something I've definitely noticed with like Need for Speed. If something is like remotely panned in the media or like gaming journalists about the game, it gets axed the next game.
Yeah, yeah.
Like people were complaining dead ass about like the only nighttime mode in 2015. So guess what? In Payback we have day and night.
Yep.
You know, it's just that type of thing. And people were complaining that there was no off-roading in 2015. So guess what? The next game, half of it's going to be off-roading. So I'm seriously hoping no one complains about any stupid shit with Need for Speed Unbound. Like, I seriously hope no one complains that.
I mean, I feel like the anime will probably be a one and done anyway, unless there's an Unbound 2. I feel like that's the kind of thing you leave to the name. In a way, I feel like if they go to like a Need for Speed or just any other Need for Speed, I feel like the anime will definitely stay to the name Unbound. Like if they did an Unbound 2, I could see it. But I get what you mean. Where if everyone gets to complaining about, it's a very big mob mentality. I've seen it on my videos before, where nothing will be said about something. I'll upload a video. One comment will be about one thing. And then all the comments will start being about it. I won't even see it on like a different video.
Exactly.
I'll just see people all, I assume either subconsciously or what happens, but people will see the first comment and then have that as their opinion as well. And it would suck if that ended up causing, you know, them to ditch something that is actually good.
Yeah, it's happened before and it's probably going to happen again, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, with game companies, even the crew's prone to it, listening to the loudest opinion rather than the quote-unquote, obviously there's biases, but best opinion. It's a hard one to manage and bring up. I mean, to be fair, the next Forza's gonna be pretty big, allegedly, maybe, I don't know. It's supposed to be on a new game engine.
Yeah. And I'm hoping not in this. I mean, like, I like my occasional simulator. I play Assetto Corsa a lot.
Yeah.
Mostly for the illegal street racing type stuff on there. But I mean, for Forza Motorsport, I'm more so interested in the game engine to kind of judge what Horizon 6 will be like. That's kind of like the only reason I'm really like looking forward to it. I mean, I'm sure the games could be fun. I had a lot of fun on Forza Motorsport 7, but I mean, at the same time, I can't say I'm that excited about Forza Motorsport. It's one of those games I'm like, oh wait, that's a thing that's coming out.
Yeah, I've honestly, I forget about Motorsport as well. It's 6 on the new engine that that has some potential. I mean, I don't know why no one's done it yet, right? But if it's on a new game engine, I can't imagine it would just be the smartest thing to do to set it in Japan. I know it's what the racing game audience will always beg for. I personally don't really care. But, like, if you've got a new game engine and it's free sales. If you set it in Japan, especially as Forza, like, Forza set in Japan, they're setting themselves up for the 2 most common denominators of default success. Which especially, I mean, Mexico, good-ish, I guess. I mean, the complaint with 5 is that it's so much like 4, but isn't that also because it's like an intermediary game until the next one comes out?
That's probably what it is, in all honesty, because it's the first game on a new console.
Yeah.
You know, they don't want to, they want to make it crossover, and if they're working on a game with a new engine, they don't want to, alienate all the folks that are going to be playing it.
Yeah.
So I feel like with Japan, that's a game they need to knock out of the ballpark because every Tom, Dick, and Harry is asking for it. So really, I have a feeling that if we are going to get a Japan Forza game, it's probably going to be the next one.
I was going to say, as in the next one is in 6 or 7? Because I mean, 6, I mean, because they'd want to nail it. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how crazy they're gonna play it with this new game engine. I know games have switched engines and it been not really noticeable before, but it's like I can't imagine they would go too crazy when the formula is so simple for them at the moment.
Yeah.
And yeah, Japan would just make the most sense when they've put in all this money for a new game engine, to get used to a new game engine, to set up all of that, to do all of that. It's weird that it's somewhere car games have been so afraid of for so long, which it would be nice to see if they did do that. I mean, any game there would be nice, I guess, like the Need for Speed, etc. I always think of the meme that is it's car, and then it's car but Japanese.
Japanese, yeah. Or place
for Japanese, yeah. I think I had tweeted that one recently. It's the racing game audience, and it works, and maybe it will be good, but I guess we'd have to see.
I will say probably the most popular, I guess you could say, track or community on Assetto Corsa is like the Shikoku like revival project.
Yeah.
Like that's probably the biggest community. Like that's probably the reason most people play Assetto Corsa today.
Yeah.
Not dispelling anyone who plays it for any other reason, but I mean that's probably the biggest community in that game. And then you also have the No Hezi community, which is basically they run on the Shikoku Revival project and like on the FDR Drive, which is like a New York City map for Assetto Corsa.
Yeah. It's also the name of a crew race, which is what popped into my
basically.
Head.
Yeah. No Hezi. So yeah, it's insane. But like you look at that, and that's another going back to what I was talking about earlier about street racing having some sort of like renaissance coming back. You're seeing these like these communities of games, like these communities on Assetto Corsa growing exponentially. Like I think No Hezi is like nearly like 100,000 like active people on their Discord. Like Shikoku Revival Project probably around there as well. And it makes sense for games like Forza, especially now. Maybe not so much in 2018 when they were developing Horizon 4 or Horizon 5. But going into the 2020s, I can definitely see racing games, and it's not necessarily more seeing, but more so hoping and hoping that they do this. But basically seeing racing game developers looking at like places like Japan and like more so illegal street racing, underground street racing type areas, and kind of focusing on that as opposed to doing the whole festival type thing. Especially if Need for Speed Unbound does well. Especially if Unbound does well.
Yeah. I mean, everything kind of just it flip flops. It's like it's the same thing you see with the reference that comes to mind is car models. You'll have an era of square, and then you'll have an era of round, and then you'll have an era of square and an era of round. It's that kind of thing where it'll pendulum back and forth. You get too much festival, you go back down to the scum of illegal street racing, and hopefully it swings back the other way.
Yeah. I mean, we even had this back in like 2007, late 2000s, a little bit with Need for Speed Pro Street.
Yeah.
Need for Speed Pro Street, fantastic game, by the way. And then we had Need for Speed Shift 2 Unleashed, and we had a lot of these like games trying to start copying like Forza, like Motorsport, and Gran Turismo.
Yeah.
And then obviously we had the period then of games like Need for Speed Hot Pursuit, like that type of game.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of moved over to like a more festival type atmosphere. But the pendulum I definitely feel could shift back towards, especially Need for Speed starts doing really well.
Yeah.
Like if Need for Speed becomes the game that other games copy again, like then I can definitely see more games coming out featuring like illegal street racing or like an underground like feel to it.
And that would be the best thing to see. I mean, to be fair, you know what? At that point, I mean, I guess this is a also car and motorsports. Do you watch any motorsports? I guess.
Yeah, I actually started watching Formula One, like mainly. Like I started watching a little bit last year, 2021, which was like an insane year for Formula One, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Was that the Hamilton or Max did a thing, and everyone was like, "Oh my god, he did a thing!"
Yeah, that was when they were neck and neck. But this last season, well, the one that's still going on, it's a season like I'm in a fantasy league, that type of thing.
Yeah.
So this was the year I really started watching like Formula One. And just with getting into like motorsport and cars in general, I was usually more so just a gamer first, car person second.
Same.
Until I got my Acura in like 2019.
Jeez.
So
which
once
generation?
I have a 2010 Acura TSX. I can throw a picture in here if you want to put it on screen.
Yeah.
But basically, once I got that car, it's like a stick shift because I always wanted a stick shift.
Yeah.
That's kind of when I really started getting more so into being a car person first, as opposed to just a video game YouTuber. And then there's my car down there. That's, and then like over time I just kind of grew more and more into it.
Yeah.
Like learning more about cars, that type of thing.
I mean, I say it every now and then, but I'll often say is that like, yeah, I considering my job relates to cars now, I'm so much not a car guy. I've always been a content guy before I've been a car guy. Like I couldn't tell you a rear fender from a turbo. It's
like yeah, I definitely felt like the same. I felt like an outsider sometimes.
Yeah.
Because like I'll be in like a Discord call with like a few of my friends who also do YouTube.
Yeah.
And they'll be talking about rims, and my one friend will be like, "Oh, are those poop fart 69 420 rims?" And my buddy's like, "No, those are actually shit old 21s."
Yeah.
And it's all Greek to me. I'm like, I don't know what they're talking about. And even still, there's more so different aspects of cars that I'm more proficient in than like rims. Like if you point to a rim and tell me what that is, I have no fucking idea. But I can tell you like what engine I have. Like I have a K24, like 2.4 liter. I have 201 horsepower in my car. I can tell you a lot about my car and cars that I sit down and research and like different brands and everything. But overall, like I'm still like in the process of kind of like learning, and I feel I'm a very hands-on learner.
Yeah.
So I eventually want to get like a project car to kind of work on. And as much as I love my Acura, it's too reliable.
Yeah.
Like I finally have something I could do with it. My one brake light's out. I can finally work on my car for once.
Yeah.
Because all I've typically had to do is when the temperatures plummet, my car burns oil because it's a Honda.
Yeah.
So I just put more oil in it. And then that's really all I've really had to do with it. Change my oil, and that's it.
Okay, I imagine that becomes very boring. It just becomes like a tool to drive from here to here rather than having something to do with it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I love driving it. It's a fantastic car. It's super reliable.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I want something I can work on as well. So hopefully next couple of years, I can probably get like a project car and actually sit down and get my hands dirty.
What have you got in mind?
Hoping like a DC2 Integra. I've been also looking at like pickup trucks, just something like I go on Craigslist, and honestly, just anything that's stick shift and I can like work on.
Yeah.
I'd be fine with that. But if I had to choose, it'd be a DC2 Integra or like a Honda Prelude, like an EK9. I'm a very big Honda fanboy.
Yeah.
So that something like that.
Maybe like an SUV of some kind, you know.
Yeah, my first car like that I got when I was in high school, it was a hand-me-down. I had a 2006 RAV4 6-cylinder. It was a V6.
Yeah.
It was like 269 horsepower, close to 300 horsepower. And it was an automatic. Like that thing was a fucking rocket. Like you should not be giving a high schooler that type of car. Yeah, especially when there's a long straight road outside their high school, you know? So yeah.
I mean, the one I've had in mind is I've got two dream cars, I guess. There's if I had to buy anything right now, I'd get a motorcycle just because it's easier, it's cheaper. I just want to get to A to B really, and I kind of like the bike that I want to get. But the cars that I've had in mind, it's like, you know, there's the realistic dream car, and then there's like the POV Raid Shadow Legends hits me up for like a Bucks guide. Like there's that car, which is the Porsche Taycan, which the story on that is the Piston Neon. I went on GTA recently, well, actually a couple years ago now, and I really liked the Piston Neon. And then my mate was like, "Did you know that's a Porsche?" And I was like, "No, I didn't." And then I'm like, "Oh, fine. If I can't get the Piston Neon, this thing would be all right." But then the car that's kind of like a realistic one, I wouldn't mind a GT 86 to get and work on and have to even daily drive. I'd cycle past one very often on my on the way to the gym or college, etc. So it's a cool car, and it's one I've looked at for a while now. But it'd be a cool car to have as one to have as a project car.
Yeah, I remember wanting one back in like 2015. Like I wanted, that was back when we had, at least in America, we had the BRZ, the GT86, and the what was it? It was the Scion FRS, which were all just the exact same car with a different badge. But I really liked that car back in the day. That was like when I was like 15. I was 15 when 2015 came out, so like back then I really liked that car.
Yeah. 15 when 2015 came out.
Yeah, it's easy to remember. I was born on December 30th, 1999, so remembering my age is very, very easy.
I mean, the date's kind of cool, I guess. I mean, to be fair, mine is January 1st, but it's but it's 2003. So you're not much older than me, to be fair.
Yeah, but it is really easy, probably for you too, remembering the dates, because you just subtract by 3, but for me,
it's very simple. Like,
how old was I in 2002? I was 2. How old was I in 2012? I was 12.
That makes it very simple.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, to be fair, the podcast is what's gotten me into the car world more, if anything. I've got like the Discord with all the car news, and I'll look at it. Where we started the podcast, and it feels like as we started it, cars just started dropping. Like, we started, and it's like the TT's gone, the R8's gone, the Aventador's gone, the Fiesta's gone, the F-Type is gone. As we started, and it's just been SUV after SUV after SUV, and it's torture. But
we are in that period where, like, I guess you could say, because car generations, I've noticed, kind of are delayed a good couple years after the start of the decade. So like a lot of the cars that we remember from the 2010s didn't really start coming out till like 2012, 2013. So we're kind of seeing that generational change, you know, like the changing of the guard, I guess you could say, to like more EV starting in like 2023 and everything.
I mean, every country's being like, well, now you gotta make EVs by this date or whatever. So eventually it's gonna be, I mean, I assume you'll obviously still be able to buy a non-EV, because EVs definitely aren't like the best option at the moment. But eventually there will be a time, probably I'd say more near the end of our life cycle, if not later, that like the first pickup car to get as your first car would be an EV, like because that's when the every car has to be EV would have hit, and then long enough would have gone that all the old the new cars are considered old cars. So it's gonna be an interesting change, and hey, racing games hopefully follow along with it. Which I know people are often upset about electric cars in racing games as well, because you can be like, funny, haha, engine sound bug, haha, funny.
I mean, I think it's exciting, just EV overall. Especially with cars like the new Dodge Charger, which a lot of people think looks ugly. I don't mind it. I don't like it as much as like what we have today, but at the same time, I like what Dodge is doing. They're still, like, with Dodge, they try to be as outlandish as possible with their cars. And that's definitely what they're doing with this EV. And the fact that, like, they're coming up with ways to make the car sound good despite it being an EV, make it sound meaty. I have mad respect for that. So it's innovations like that that get me excited for EV, and cars like the Porsche Taycan, which I think is a really cool like EV car. And then we also, not just EV, but we also have like other types of cars. I remember my friend was showing me the other day of like the Hyundai RN22E.
Yeah.
Which is a I believe it's I forgot what it is. It's an EV car, but it's like a high performance EV car. And it's there alongside with their Envision 74, which looks like a car straight out of Cyberpunk. And these are both concepts, but one of them's an EV car, and I believe the Envision.
Oh, these two, these two are. I love that new one.
Yeah,
like we talked about this recently on the podcast.
Yeah, the Envision 74, I believe, is electronic, but I want to say one of these is like more so based off of like hydrogen or something, if I remember.
The newer one is hydrogen, but I don't think it'll be hydrogen when it makes it to market because the accessibility.
But I mean, it's cars like this that I think are really cool, and I think can make that can
the design thing I love, where the design opportunity to see what car companies do with it. One thing that kind of like, honestly, one of the most bummed I've been about an EV was a Jeep, not just because it was a Jeep, but because you couldn't tell it was an EV. It was just a Jeep, same design they've had for the last like 5-6 years, but it was an EV. I like more when they actually try, like the Taycan, like this Dodge, where they actually, it's interesting to see when they take their iconic front design that every car has and do something new to it to make it an EV.
I love the new Hummer, Hummer EV, the GMC Hummer, because it keeps the design aesthetic of like a Hummer from like back in the 08, like pre-08, but it makes it EV. It can crab walk.
Yeah,
it has like a fuck ton of horsepower. Like it looks like an American like cowboy's wet dream.
Yeah,
but it's still an EV. So I mean, I love stuff like that.
Yeah, Rolls did a similar thing. They did. I haven't liked Rolls Royces recently. This one I actually liked compared to the other Rolls Royces, where they actually took their design and made it unique looking and made it newer looking. Like this was the most recent design of a Rolls Royce. Just is it trying to download the image? I'm being scammed. It's gone from that to a much more interesting EV looking design.
And going back, I know you mentioned it earlier, but cars kind of swing on a pendulum where for 1 year they're curvy and the next minute they're boxy. We're definitely going into a new boxy era.
Yeah, it's the more jagged as well. I think that's what the whole EV electronic invites, is that sort of jagged look, the neon light and whatnot.
Yeah, so I definitely see, especially with that N74, like going more into like a
very DeLorean.
Yeah, exact. That's the first car that came to my mind. Yeah, a very kind of like 80s type.
Yeah, like I love the digital headlights, like that, the like pixelated headlights. I love that aesthetic, and the same with like the ones with the lines and whatnot.
Yeah, I just wonder what these cars are gonna be like regarded. Like I wonder how these cars are gonna look like reception wise 20 years down the line, because car companies have always tried to make cars look futuristic, and a lot of times it's backfired, especially if you look up like a Saturn from the year 2000 or like the late 90s. Like they all look terrible, but at the time they tried to be cutting edge. I think a lot of these cars will stand the test of time. I mean, cars like the DeLorean are still loved to this day.
Exactly.
So I feel like if they get the design decisions down, then I feel like they could make a car that will look good 20 years from now. Same with, and that's why you have cars like the Cybertruck, which look like dog shit on day one.
Exactly. That's not gonna age well.
No, that's not gonna age well. But I feel like the Hummer, like right there, will. I think the Rivian pickup truck, that looks really good. I think that will. And then
one thing that I think did it really well is this Renault. Did a very good job at modernizing with the EV style.
Yeah, it still looks like a Renault, but like it looks very.
It's that neon light, the jaggedness.
It's very 2020s. what's it? The Hyundai Santa Cruz, I want to say.
Mm.
It's like I feel the 2023 Hyundai Santa Cruz. I see this a lot where I live.
Yeah.
And they definitely kind of not necessarily copied Rivian, but like that's kind of like what pickup trucks are starting to look like mid-sized pickup trucks. And I remember, I think the Rivian looks really like clean as well.
It's like a SUV, but with a pickup attached to it at the back. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember like it was back in 2018. I was at the New York City Auto Show. Yeah, I was at the New York City Auto Show, and they had like a whole display. I believe the CEO of Rivian was there as well, just like talking to people. This is back when they were a startup. And then it was really cool seeing that in 2018. And then when I was in California last year, me and my friends, we went to this Hawaiian food place. And like my buddy lives in Silicon Valley, so there's always like all the new EV cars.
Yeah.
If you're looking to see a new EV car on the road, you got to go to the Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
And we're coming out of the parking lot and we see one of these parked up, and that was the first time I had seen it in person. And now, kind of slowly, since then, I've seen like these cars in my area, which is not necessarily a big EV like type area. Like I live outside of Philadelphia. So not really the first place you think of when you think of cutting edge EV technology and cars and everything.
Yeah.
But it slowly is becoming the norm, and slowly a lot of these cars are taking space on our roads. And I've kind of noticed this just as I'm growing up. Like the road is going to look a lot different 5, 6 by the end of the decade. What we see on the roads can be a lot different than what we see on the road today.
It's really got to be those cars that like. The Cybertruck, like we said, it's not gonna age well. No. It needs to be the ones that they need to take into account the fact that it will be an old car eventually. Like there's the cars that like this. Obviously, it may look modern now, but I don't think it would look terrible driving as an old car one day, or even like these things. I guess this thing especially has that retro style already, so it plays into it. It's like cars that eventually will have to be AI traffic, which
exactly
like which you can't do something way too outrageous. It's just going to be something that looks modern enough that eventually it'll be of the time, really. And there's a lot more cars like that, but yeah, some people fumble it a lot, like the Cybertruck, and in the other direction with the Jeep that is just completely non-noticeably EV.
I will say, even
I had an image of that up as well.
Yeah. Ford with the F-150 Lightning, like that thing's fucking quick off the line. Like I don't know if you've seen the video. Not to get political, but there's a video of Joe Biden driving one of these, Joe Biden, and he like fucking like floors it and does like 100 miles an hour. But those things, even the F-150 Lightnings, I think look really cool.
Yeah.
And it's starting to get to the point where EV is starting to really target like the mainstream like audience, you know. It's still with like the light bar going across like the entire span of the car.
Yeah.
I definitely feel like that's what we're gonna be seeing a lot more of going. That's already what I'm starting to see more of.
Yeah. Like I genuinely, looking at it now, I hadn't thought of this before. I mean, obviously I've talked about this car many a times on the podcast because it's been brought up recently. It's had its models made and whatnot. Like, unironically, if that thing ends up looking it won't look as good, but if it ends up looking anything serviceable once it's actually to market, I wouldn't even mind getting that thing over a GT86 as the car to run. Like, it's a big change coming into it, and eventually these will be the cars that are on the road, the more of the main ones you see. I mean, Lotus just did an EV SUV.
Yeah, I saw that. I'm really excited for EV. I'll be completely honest. I'm not one of those doomers that's like, oh, car culture's gonna die and like all this type of stuff. I just think it will adapt. I mean, you know, like people said car culture was gonna die when the gas crisis hit in the late 70s and all the cars were becoming smaller and like more gas efficient. That just led to the rise of JDM culture. Like things change, unfortunately. As much as it pains me to say, Hellcat culture, which I think is like what's really not necessarily completely dominant, but is a big facet of car culture.
Yeah.
I think Dodge will adapt. It's not going to be the same for like a while, where it's going to be just Hellcats like running up and down the freeways, running
emissions wouldn't let them. Yeah.
Exactly. And again, that happened before in the late 70s with the gas crisis.
Yeah.
So things just change. I think companies like Dodge are just going to adapt, and I think we're already starting to see that with the EV Dodge Charger.
Yeah.
So I don't think a lot of these cars are losing their identities despite moving over to EV.
Yeah.
So I'm very, I guess it's not, I'm not coping, but like I'm definitely very positive, and I'm very
car culture is always gonna keep going. Is the thing?
Yeah, exactly.
It's not like just because you fall out of it. It's unfortunate, but it's like Fortnite. I enjoyed Fortnite when it was like Chapter 1, when it was old Fortnite, but I don't like it, and I wouldn't go back on it. But I know that the game is still going on with all the newer people on it right now. Like it's something that's still gonna keep going, even if the base of it is changing with the times. Really, I guess. It's just Either you fall out of it, or you accept that it's changing and start leaning into the change. And I mean, with my job being racing games, it's what I gotta do. I mean, it's one of the main reasons that like. Racing games are like, cars are like just outside of my direct interests, where I can treat them like a job, and there's always going to be another racing game. Just like there's always going to be cars coming out, there's always going to be a Forza or a Need for Speed, a Crew. Even past my lifetime, there'll be other main staples, you know? There's always going to be something going on with it. And it'll be cool to see when all of that starts changing as well. I mean, in the dystopia where the only time you can hear a petrol engine is when you boot up a dust-covered copy of Forza Horizon 5.
God. I just also think that, like, there's also and I think a lot of people forget this a lot of the time, and I forget a lot of the time, is there's more to the future of automotive, like, cars than just EV. We also have synthetic fuel. There's hydrogen-based cars, you know. Those are probably a lot more longer away, but I don't think like a combustion engine type thing's really gonna go anywhere. It's just gonna adapt to become cleaner.
You know what? We complained about this on the podcast a couple episodes ago, but I'm gonna bring it up again because it baffles me how America, and maybe it's because it's a state-to-state thing, right? But like they really let the companies get away with too much. Like the EU, straight away when EVs started happening, the EU was like, all of you will use the same charger. Every single one of you will have the exact same charger, so that so they can all be unified. You can take any EV car to any charging port. But in America, if you drive a Taycan, you might have to go miles just to get to a charger. People can't get EVs because they wouldn't have one near them. It's like Tesla has the most, and then the other ones are fighting for scraps. It's with so many things.
I know with the Biden administration, at least, again, not to get political, but I know Joe Biden's been a big advocate for kind of making EV fueling stations about as common as gas stations. And I know just out of the one shop I go to a lot, this grocery store, they recently added in a couple EV charging ports. And I've seen everything from Tesla Model 3s. I've seen the new Mustang EV parked there. I've seen a Rivian parked there. Like, all these are completely different cars from different manufacturers, but they're all using the same EV charging spot.
That's finally good to see.
So, but there are still spots. I know there's one near my buddy's place that's just Tesla only. That's slowly starting to change. But I know a lot of it is probably Stonewall, because it seems the EU has their head out of their ass a little less than the American government. Because you have a lot of these politicians that have shares of companies that are developing EV, and that's inherently a problem, especially when companies are actively fighting against creating universal charging spots, you know, and then you have a politician that's making money and collecting dividends from said company. You know how they're gonna vote.
I mean, hey, we're going through that whole. The UK's been we've been circling the sink recently. Like, we've had the whole issue just passed with. Well, we've still got it going on where it's these politicians that are very invested in companies, so why would they ever go near them with an inconvenience, you know?
Exactly. And I do think it's something that needs to be done, especially with the future of EV. Like, they need to be as common as gas stations.
Exactly.
But, like, you know,
and
I do
unification would be the best, so you can take any to any, like a gas station.
Exactly. And I do think that will eventually become the norm. It's just that the government's going to stonewall it for how long?
Like we're obviously not entitled. We're not entitled to anything. We're not entitled to convenience. But it's very nice having the EU and the UK at least try with adding convenience to things. Like, recently, I don't know if it was the EU or if it was a specific country, but there was a law that every single customer service has to have you talking to a real person within a certain amount of time. It's like, and the Apple are being forced to finally use USB-C. It's like, it's obviously, it's funny to see that America doesn't get it sometimes, to just be like, oh, what, like, the land of the free. But
I mean, it's wild because, like, when we were in California last year, my buddy Straight Up Hippo, he's from England. He flew over, and just a lot of the it was just seeing the look on his face when he like saw a lot of like the stuff that we do differently in America was really interesting, to say the least. So yeah, we just do a lot of shit ass backwards, in my humble opinion. I'm not like a big like America, let's go like type person. But, like,
I mean, it's a convenience game. The EU definitely actually prioritizes that a little bit over America, which does let companies get away with it. I mean, I'm not on either side of the whole political bit of it. It's just, obviously, with EVs, it comes up with the fact that it's like, you can just get any EV car charged at an EV charging thing, and there's so many of them now where it's baffling that America lets Tesla just get away with this, or making them wherever they want. But I mean, I think unless you have another topic to bring up.
I'm addicted to vaping. My vape.
Where in the US are you?
I'm in Allentown. It's about like, I'm like an hour north of Philly. That's kind of like that's where I'm from, my humble abode. So like East Coast. I'm in a very centralized
East Coast.
location.
It's
East Coast.
Like the Fresh Prince bit. He was Philly or something.
I'm from Pennsylvania. Like, I live, if I drive really fast, I can get to Philly from my house in under an hour. And then New York City's like an hour and a half. Like, not far. So thankfully I live in a very centralized location. So there's like a lot of cool stuff in my city car wise that I can do. Eventually though, wherever my career may take me, either that be YouTube or what I'm doing currently, hopefully I would like to either move to either Philadelphia or like California.
I mean, like, you're a radio man, aren't you?
I do internet radio. I doubt, just with the way the radio industry's going, I doubt that's gonna be a viable career option. As much as I love doing it, just not many people listen to radio anymore. So we're really kind of seeing radio becoming more localized in a sense. Either on the national level, it's becoming more nationalized. But in the community, like small community level, it's becoming more localized. I DJ for a radio station called Truckers.fm. We're basically a community radio station for American Truck Simulator and Euro Truck Simulator, like the communities. And and we kind of started off as that. I joined like a couple years after it started. I've been there for like 4 years, coming up on 5 years.
Wow.
And Yeah, so that's really fun. We're big in the community, and that's probably arguably without the community, we wouldn't be able to survive.
Yeah.
And radio on a national level, I don't know how it is in the UK. I think it's a little different in the
I mean, it's all
UK
like
for radio.
podcasting now and whatnot. I
Yeah,
mean, we've got our radios and stuff as well. Yeah, we've got BBC Radio. I mean, I wouldn't know, I guess, but yeah, we have
yeah.
radios that exist, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just blessed to live in an area because we have 93.3 WMMR out of Philadelphia, which is like the last radio station to have like 24/7 live broadcasting. And unfortunately, I think that's getting axed at some point soon. So there really isn't a good future for radio. I mean,
it's like newspapers, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Sort of cycling out. Yeah. Local
currently,
news.
Yeah, currently I'm in a role where I'm I'm a video production assistant.
Yeah.
And I go to events, I film the events, I edit them up, and I send them to my employer, and I get paid. And I help set up strike events. And doing YouTube, even if YouTube doesn't take off for me ever, I learned so many valuable skills from YouTube that I apply on my day-to-day job.
Yeah.
And I made so many contacts and some of my best friends through doing YouTube. Like the friends I went to California with.
Yeah.
That like it would at the end of the day be worth it. So just wherever my career would take me, though, you know, I would have loved to eventually move out to California, but who knows in this economy? That's for sure.
The UK is doing that times 10 at the moment. So
I bet. I've heard.
Yeah, it's shocking. I mean, I study accountancy with what I'm doing at the moment. So I work full time. I really focus on treating it like a job. Is what I focus on. Like I wake up at 8. I'll be editing by 9. Editing, brand, thumbnails, wheel gameplay channel, podcast, all till about 2 p.m. I'll go gym, come back, do more work, stream 3 hours, and then I'll go lay in bed, watch a show for a little bit. But I've been doing that, and I've been doing accountancy, which it's really like YouTube was like, now it's like, okay, this is a salary every month now.
Yeah.
Like, so it's kind of like, originally it was, accounting is something I can just do. Accounting is like, I'm good with numbers in that way, so that I could just do accountancy. So I've been studying that on the side, and again, whether it's with YouTube or whether it's with accountancy, if I end up going into that, well, which is a backup, but I wouldn't mind it. The kind of the plan is, I don't know. I had this plan, and I talked about it, and then I brought it up to my girlfriend, and now she's run away with it like it's her plan, and she'll tell me about it, and I'll be like, wait, wasn't I the person who brought this up? Is moving to Canada is one thing I wouldn't mind doing in like in a long-term kind of thing. I mean, she's doing medicine, and that pays a lot in Canada apparently. One thing is housing prices aren't the best in Canada, but everyone's due a crash at the moment. So it's that's the sort of long-term plan that I've had with accountancy, studying, YouTube full-time. I do college once a week, so I'm fine with that. And then getting that to a point where, I mean, I guess you've got moving to California, I've got moving to Canada, hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hopefully I can work out.
Yeah. I mean, there you go. Best of luck to you as well, sorting that out.
Yeah.
I'm kind of it's baffling that you do radio, but for like simulation trucking. It's so like, imagine explaining that to someone like 20 years ago. That is kind of cool. It is.
We do get a lot of IRL truckers. We do get a lot of IRL truckers doing it. Yeah.
I mean, it's very not to taint it, but it's very metaverse, I guess.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It unironically is, and I know with Truckers MP, which is like the big like MMO type component for American Euro Truck, we have to give traffic reports. At the bottom of every hour, and we have roads that are typical busy spots. So like I'll bring up like the map, and then like I'll see like, oh, this road is jammed. Oh, that's typical.
In game.
Yeah, in game.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I will say I don't go on TMP much. But I will say, the couple times I've been on it and I've been stuck in a traffic jam with all real life players, is a very interesting experience.
Yeah.
And it's a very fun experience, very immersive experience, being stuck in a traffic jam with 300 other live people.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
It's very metaverse. Yeah.
Not fun in real life, but it's fun as hell in the truck sim.
Yeah. I mean, that's actually, that is very cool, to be fair.
Yeah.
It's just got me thinking, but yeah. Sweet. I mean, I guess, unless... I mean, I can't think of another topic. Happy Halloween, I guess. The day we're filming this is Halloween, yeah.
That's right. I should have wore my monk costume. That's what I've been for Halloween, yeah.
I left it too late. I was good. We just had an update with Chris Forsberg. I was gonna dress as him, but everything would have taken so long to arrive. I did Hero last year, so I can't top doing Hero.
Oh God.
I did dress as Hero last year, yeah.
That sounds like a punishment more than like something you would actually do.
Yeah. I mean, it was fun, but it was just blue overalls and a tiny wrench, essentially. But
oh man.
Hey, I mean, I've interviewed Hero as well, so I've
that is true.
I've been around with Hero, essentially. But yeah. Other than that, I think that may be the end of the first bonus guest episode of the Stick Drift podcast. Yeah. Subscribe with notifications on if you watch this long. I mean, what are you doing? Of course, Jack's links will be in the description. Is it Jack? I mean, I assume it's Jack. There's two big Jacks on YouTube who both aren't even called Jack, so at least...
there's a lot of imposters.
There really is, yeah.
My legal name is actually Jack.
Exactly. So. The only true Jack on YouTube. And he's got that stamp. So, yeah.
Right here.
Check that out. Obviously, follow on Spotify and subscribe to this and subscribe to the videos channel. I'm sure you'll see some very fun title thumbnails that I can come up with for any clips I can get of this podcast on that. But yes, I'll see you boys in the next one. Any last words? Legal name Jack.
I'm addicted to vaping.
There you go. Alright, in a bit.